The market on Kashara was always loud. Hundreds of different species came to trade, argue, and do business. The sounds mixed together into a strange music that Elena Cross had learned to love. She walked through the crowd with her medical bag, over her shoulder, heading back to the clinic after buying some fruit. Elena was human, which made her small compared to most species here. At 5 feet 6 inches tall, she had to dodge around massive traders and duck under swinging tails. She didn't mind. After 3 years on this frontier planet, she felt more at home here than she ever had on Earth. She was a doctor and a scientist who studied alien biology. Back on Earth, she had worked at a fancy research center. Everyone said she had a bright future. But then the colony where her family lived was destroyed in an accident. Her parents, her brother, his wife, and their 2 children all died in one terrible day. After that, the fancy research center felt empty. Elena needed to do something that mattered. So she came to Kashara, where doctors were always needed. The medical clinic where she worked treated everyone. Humans with broken bones, methane breathers with lung problems, even the occasional Vraxian warrior, though they rarely admitted they needed help. The Vraxians were the scary ones. They stood 8 feet tall with muscles like stone. They had claws that could cut through metal and teeth that could crush bones. They were apex predators from a world where everything was a fight. Most humans were terrified of Vraxians. The species had been at war 20 years ago. Now they had peace, but it was the kind of peace where everyone kept their guns loaded. Elena stopped at a fruit stand to buy one more thing. The vendor, a blue-skinned Taurian, was gossiping about politics. "Did you hear? A Vraxian diplomat is here today with his whole family," the vendor said. "High Commander someone. Very important." Elena nodded politely and paid for her fruit. She didn't care much about politics. She just wanted to help sick people and maybe find some peace in her own mind. That's when she heard the first explosion. The sound was like thunder, but wrong. It came from the east side of the market. People screamed. The crowd started to panic, pushing in every direction. Elena's training kicked in immediately. She pulled her medical bag around and started moving toward the explosion, not away from it. People needed help. The second explosion hit the west side. Now Elena understood. This was an attack. Someone was setting off bombs in the market. The crowd turned into a stampede. Big aliens knocked over small ones. Stalls collapsed. Fire spread from the blast sites. Elena pushed through the chaos, trying to reach the wounded. Her environmental suit, the special kind that protected fragile humans, could handle some damage. She had to help. Then she saw him. In a small gap between 2 burning stalls, a Vraxian child stood frozen. He was small for his species, maybe only 5 feet tall, which meant he was young. His amber eyes were wide with terror. His fur, which should have been standing up in aggression, was flat against his body. He was scared. Behind him, Elena saw the device. It was a crude bomb, the kind extremists used. The timer showed 8 seconds. 7. 6. The child hadn't seen it. He was looking for his family, crying out in the Vraxian language. No one else was close enough. The stampeding crowd had left this pocket of the market almost empty. Elena's mind did the math instantly. The blast radius would be 12 feet. The child was 5 feet from the bomb. She was 15 feet away. She could run, get to safety. The child would die, but she would live. 5 seconds. Every piece of logic said to run. Vraxians were predators. They had killed millions of humans in the war. This child would grow up to be a warrior, probably someone who looked down on humans as weak prey animals. Saving him made no sense. 4 seconds. But Elena didn't see a predator. She saw a terrified child calling for his mother. 3 seconds. Her legs moved before her brain finished thinking. She ran straight at the child. Her environmental suit was tough, designed to protect humans on dangerous worlds. Maybe, just maybe, it would be enough. 2 seconds. She hit the child like a football player making a tackle. He was heavier than she expected, all muscle and dense bone. They went down together, and Elena twisted her body to put herself between the bomb and the child. 1 second. The world became fire and thunder. The explosion hit Elena's back like a giant fist. Her environmental suit, rated for extreme conditions, absorbed some of the blast, but not enough. She felt her ribs crack. Her spine screamed in pain. The heat burned through her suit in several places, searing her skin. Metal shrapnel punched into her legs. Then there was nothing but pain and darkness. Elena woke up for just a moment. She was on the ground. The Varaxian child was under her, crying but alive. She had done it. The child would live. Strong hands grabbed her. She looked up and saw a massive Varaxian warrior. His face was covered in scars and his eyes were the same amber color as the child's. This must be the father. He was staring at her with an expression Elena couldn't read. Varaxians didn't show emotion the way humans did, but something in his eyes looked like shock. Maybe even respect. Why? He asked in rough but understandable English. Why would prey die for a predator's cub? Elena tried to answer, but her lungs weren't working right. Blood filled her mouth. She managed one word. Child. The warrior's eyes widened. He barked orders in his own language. Other Varaxians surrounded them, forming a protective circle. Someone was calling for medical help. Elena's vision started to fade. She had lost too much blood. Her broken ribs had probably punctured a lung. The burns were catastrophic. She was dying and she knew it. But the child was crying, alive and safe. That had to be enough. The warrior leaned close. Human, he said, his voice urgent. What is your name? Elena, she whispered. Elena Cross. Elena Cross, he repeated. Then he said something in the Varaxian language, words that sounded important and formal. Other Varaxians around them gasped. Elena didn't understand. The darkness was coming fast now. Her heart was slowing down. She had maybe seconds left. The warrior placed his clawed hand over her heart. I am High Commander Varkesh of the Dominion Warfleet. You saved my son, my heir. I invoke the dead of lifeblood. You will not die. I swear this on my bloodline's honor. Elena's heart stopped. The last thing she heard was Varkesh roaring orders, demanding human doctors, Varaxian medical technology, everything. The child was screaming for her, this stranger who had died for him. Then Elena Cross fell into the darkness, not knowing that her 2 seconds of courage had just changed the fate of 2 civilizations. Elena woke up slowly, like swimming up from the bottom of a deep ocean. Everything felt wrong. Her body felt different, heavier, stronger. The pain she expected wasn't there, just a dull ache. She opened her eyes and immediately knew she wasn't in a human medical facility. The room was huge, with ceilings at least 15 feet high. The bed she lay on was enormous and made for someone much larger than her. The walls were decorated with weapons and strange symbols. She wakes, a deep voice said. Elena turned her head and her neck moved more smoothly than it should have. A Varaxian doctor stood nearby, wearing what looked like medical robes. He was watching her with those amber eyes that showed no emotion. Where am I? Elena asked. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Stronger somehow. The Dominion flagship, the doctor said. You have been in medical care for 23 days. 23 days. Elena tried to sit up and was shocked when her body obeyed easily. She should be weak after 3 weeks unconscious. Instead, she felt strong. Too strong. What did you do to me? She asked, looking at her hands. They looked like her hands, but the skin seemed tougher. When she made a fist, she could feel power in her grip that had never been there before. The doctor's fur rippled, which Elena had learned meant discomfort. You died, he said simply. Your heart stopped. Your lungs collapsed. Your spine was broken in 3 places. Human medicine could not save you, so Commander Varkesh ordered us to use our medicine. Elena stared at him. Varaxian medicine? On a human? It has never been done before, the doctor admitted. But the commander invoked the dead of lifeblood. We had no choice. We rebuilt you. Your bones are reinforced with biometal alloys. Your organs have been enhanced. Your nervous system has been improved. You are still human, but you are more durable now. You had to be to survive what killed you. Elena's hand went to her chest. She could feel her heart beating, strong and steady. She was alive. She should be dead, but she was alive. I want to see a mirror, she said. The doctor brought one. Elena looked at her reflection and felt relief. She still looked like herself. Same face, same brown hair, same green eyes. But there was something different in the way she held herself. Something stronger. The child, Elena said suddenly, remembering. The boy I saved. Is he all right? Prince Kale is unharmed, the doctor said. You shielded him completely. He has minor scratches, nothing more. Prince. The word hit Elena like a punch. She had saved a prince. No wonder they had used advanced medicine on her. I need to leave, Elena said, starting to get out of bed. I need to get back to my clinic on Kishara. My patients need me. That is not possible, a new voice said. Elena looked up to see Commander Varkesh enter the room. He was even more intimidating than she remembered. 8 feet of muscle and scars with amber eyes that seemed to see everything. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. I'm grateful for the medical care, Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. But I have a life to get back to. Your old life is over, Varkesh said. It wasn't cruel, just a statement of fact. You invoked the debt of lifeblood when you saved my son. Do you understand what this means? I didn't invoke anything, Elena protested. I just tried to save a child. In our culture, when someone saves the life of another at the cost of their own life, a debt is created, Varkesh explained. This debt must be repaid. The saved must elevate the savior to equal status. You saved my son, who is heir to one of the 7 ruling bloodlines of the Dominion. To repay this debt, you must be elevated to equal status. Elena's head was spinning. Equal status? What does that mean? It means you will be adopted into my bloodline as Kale's battle mother, Varkesh said. You will hold a seat on the ruling council of the Dominion. You will help govern our empire. Elena laughed. She couldn't help it. The idea was insane. I'm a doctor, not a politician. I don't know anything about governing an empire. Just let me go back to my clinic. If you refuse, you shame my bloodline, Varkesh said, and now there was an edge to his voice. You declare that the debt cannot be repaid. This means my son's life has no value. It could trigger a succession crisis. Other bloodlines would see weakness and attack. Kale could be killed by rivals. Is this what you want? Elena felt trapped. This is crazy. I didn't save him to get power. I don't want to be on your council. What you want is irrelevant, Varkesh said. The debt exists. It must be honored. You have no choice, and neither do I. Before Elena could argue more, the door opened again. A young Vraxian entered, much smaller than Varkesh. It was the boy, Kale. He looked nervous, his amber eyes darting between his father and Elena. When he saw Elena was awake, his whole body relaxed. He rushed over to her bedside and did something that shocked everyone in the room. He made a sound, a soft whimpering noise that Vraxians never made. It was the sound of vulnerability, of fear. You're alive, Kyle said in English that was heavily accented but understandable. I thought you would die. I have nightmares. I see the fire. I hear the explosion. But in my dreams you don't wake up. Elena's heart broke. This child was suffering. She could see it in his eyes, in the way he held himself. She had seen trauma before in refugees and survivors. Kale had it too. I'm all right, Elena said softly. You're safe. We're both safe. They won't let me talk about it, Kale whispered, looking at his father with fear. Warriors don't have fear. Warriors don't have nightmares, but I do. I'm afraid I'm weak. Fear doesn't make you weak, Elena said immediately. Being afraid and acting anyway, that's courage. You think I wasn't terrified when I ran toward that bomb? I was so scared I could barely breathe. But I did it anyway. Kale stared at her like she had said something revolutionary. You were afraid? Of course I was afraid, Elena said. Fear is normal. It's what you do with the fear that matters. Varkesh was watching this exchange with a look Elena couldn't read. She turned to him. If I agree to this temporarily, Elena said. Can I help him? He needs to talk about what happened. He needs therapy, not just physical healing. We do not have such things, Varkesh admitted. We are warriors. We endure. And that's why he's having nightmares, Elena said. You're teaching him to bury his trauma, not heal from it. Let me help him. Let me teach him that it's okay to be afraid sometimes. Varkesh was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You may try, but you must attend the council induction ceremony in 3 days. You will be formally granted your seat. And if the other council members don't want a human on their council, Helena asked. Then they will challenge you, Varkesh said, and you will have to prove you are worthy. But that is a problem for another day. For now, rest, heal, learn what you can about our culture. After Varkesh left, Kale stayed by Elena's bedside. He told her about the attack, about how he had been separated from his guards, about how he froze in fear, about how she had appeared like a hero from a story and saved him. Why did you do it? Kyle asked finally. Father says humans think Vraxians are monsters. Why save a monster's child? Elena looked at this boy who thought he was a monster. Because you're not a monster, she said simply. You're a child, and children deserve to be protected no matter what species they are. Kyle made that soft whimpering sound again. Then he did something completely against Vraxian culture. He reached out and held Elena's hand. Elena squeezed back gently, wondering what she had gotten herself into. A throne she never wanted, a position she wasn't qualified for, a whole empire of predators who would probably hate her. But looking at Kale's grateful face, she knew she couldn't walk away. Not yet, maybe not ever. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. 7 massive thrones carved from dark stone sat in a circle. Each throne had symbols of its bloodline etched into the stone. Weapons hung on the walls, trophies from 1,000 battles. The ceiling was so high that Elena couldn't see it clearly in the dim light. Elena stood in the center of the circle, feeling very small. She wore formal clothes that Varkesh's people had given her. They were nice, but they didn't make her feel any less out of place. 6 of the 7 thrones were occupied by the largest, scariest Vraxians she had ever seen. These were the leaders of the empire, warriors who had clawed their way to power. The 7th throne, the one that was supposed to be hers, sat empty. This is an insult, growled the Vraxian on the largest throne. This was Thrax, the council leader. He was even bigger than Varkesh, with scars covering his face and arms. A human? On the ruling council. Varkesh, have you lost your mind? The debt of lifeblood was invoked, Varkesh said calmly from his throne. The law is clear. The law was made for warriors, said another council member, a female named Shakara. Not for prey animals who stumbled into heroism. This human is weak. She will shame us all. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. She had spent 3 days studying Vraxian culture, reading everything she could find. She knew this would be hard, but being called weak still stung. With respect, Elena said, her voice carrying clearly in the large chamber. I'm standing here because I did something none of you did. I saved your prince. The chamber went silent. Several council members first stood up, a sign of aggression. You dare speak to us with arrogance? Thrax roared, standing from his throne. You who are so fragile you need machines to breathe our air? Who would die in a fair fight with any of us? You're right, Elena said, surprising them. I would lose a fight with any of you. Humans are physically weaker than Vraxians. We're smaller, softer, more fragile. But we're still here. We're still surviving. We survived the war with you. We survived on planets that tried to kill us. We survived because we adapt. Adaptation is prey thinking, Shakara said with disgust. Predators don't adapt. We dominate. And how's that working out for you? Elena asked. The words came out before she could stop them. The chamber erupted in angry snarls. Varkesh stood up. Enough. Elena Cross will undergo the trial of purpose. If she passes, her worthiness cannot be questioned. If she fails, I will withdraw my claim and accept the shame. Elena's stomach dropped. No one had told her about a trial. What trial? 3 tests, Thrax said with a cruel smile. Strategy, resource management, and combat simulation. You will be judged against Vraxian standards. Do you accept? Elena looked at Varkesh, who nodded slightly. She had no choice. I accept. The first test came the next day. Elena was taken to a war room where a huge holographic display showed a star system. Ships moved through space, red for enemy forces and blue for Vraxian forces. This is a real situation from 10 years ago, explained the Vraxian general running the test. A border dispute with the Keltharian Empire. The enemy has superior numbers but older ships. You command the Vraxian fleet. What do you do? Elena studied the display. The other council members sat in the observation area watching. She could feel their eyes on her, waiting for her to fail. The situation looked bad. The enemy had 3 times as many ships. Most commanders would try a direct assault, using Vraxian superior technology to overcome the numbers disadvantage. It might work, but casualties would be heavy. Elena thought about human history. about how humans had fought wars against stronger enemies, about asymmetric warfare. "I'm not going to fight them," Elena said. "Cowardice," Thrax muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "No," Elena said. "Strategy. Look at their formation. They're protecting something." She zoomed in on the display. "That station. It's a supply depot. They can't abandon it without losing their foothold in the system, so I don't attack their fleet. I send a small strike force here." She pointed to an empty section of space. "Make them think we're going to attack their homeworld supply lines. They'll have to split their fleet to defend it." "And then?" the general asked, sounding interested despite himself. "Then we don't attack there either," Elena said. "We were never going to." It was a fake. "While they're confused and split up, we hit the depot with everything we have. Fast strike, maximum damage, then retreat before they can respond. We don't win by destroying their whole fleet. We win by making this system too expensive for them to hold." She ran the simulation. Her plan worked. Vraxian casualties were 73% lower than the actual historical battle. The enemy retreated from the system within 2 weeks. The war room was quiet. Then the general said, "Clever. Very clever. Like a prey animal setting a trap." "Exactly like that," Elena agreed. "Sometimes the best way to win is not to fight fair." Thrax looked angry, but he couldn't argue with the results. "Next test," he demanded. The second test was about resource management. A Vraxian colony was facing food shortages. The normal solution would be to ration food and import supplies from other worlds. Elena studied the problem. The colony's main issue was that Vraxian dietary needs didn't match the planet's ecosystem. The native animals weren't nutritious enough for Vraxian biology. "You need to modify the native species," Elena said. "Use genetic engineering to make them produce the proteins and minerals that Vraxians need. It'll take 6 months, but after that the colony will be self-sufficient. No more expensive imports." She outlined her plan using her knowledge of xenobiology. She explained which genes to modify, how to ensure the changes wouldn't harm the ecosystem, and how to breed the modified animals quickly. One of the council members, an old warrior named Gorvash, actually nodded in approval. "This could work. Why have our own scientists not thought of this?" "Because your scientists think like Vraxians," Elena said. "You see a problem and you overcome it with force. Import food even if it's expensive. Humans think differently. We look for elegant solutions because we can't afford brute force approaches." "Is this another way of saying we're stupid?" Thrax growled. "No," Elena said firmly. "It's saying we think differently. Both approaches have value. Sometimes you need strength. Sometimes you need cleverness. The best leaders know when to use each one." Even Thrax couldn't argue with that logic. The days passed and Elena completed each test. She didn't try to be a Vraxian. She stayed human, used human thinking, and proved that different didn't mean weak. During her free time, she worked with Kale. She taught him techniques for dealing with trauma. She let him talk about his fears without judgment. Slowly, the boy's nightmares started to fade. He began to laugh again, to play like a child should. Other Vraxians noticed. Some of Varkesh's guards asked Elena questions about dealing with bad memories from war. She started informal therapy sessions, teaching them what humans had learned about mental health. On the final day of the trials, Elena stood before the council again. This time the atmosphere was different. The council members looked at her with something like respect. "You have passed all 3 tests," Gorvash announced. "Your methods are strange but effective. You think like prey, but perhaps that is not the insult we thought it was." Thrax remained hostile. "She still has not proven herself in combat. That is the true measure of a leader." "The trials are complete," Varkesh said firmly. "She has proven her worth." "Then I invoke my right as council leader to present new evidence," Thrax said with a nasty smile. "Information has come to light about the terrorist attack on Kashara. About who supplied the weapons." Elena's instincts screamed danger. Something was very wrong. Thrax pulled up documents on the holographic display. These weapons were sold by a dealer operating from the Kresh station, a station that does business with several council members' holdings. He was setting someone up. Elena could see it, but who? "The trail leads back to trade connections with human corporations," Thrax said, looking directly at Elena. "How convenient that a human hero appears just when we need to strengthen ties with Earth. Perhaps this attack was staged." The accusation hit Elena like a physical blow. "That's insane. I almost died, did you?" Thrax asked. "Or did you know Vraxian medicine could save you?" A calculated risk to gain power? The council erupted in argument. Varkesh roared denials. But Elena's mind was racing. She thought about the documents Thrax showed, about the weapons dealer, about who benefited from chaos, and suddenly she understood. "You're right," Elena said loudly, silencing the chamber. "Someone on this council is connected to the weapons dealer. But it's not me." She pulled up her own datapad, showing the research she had done during her trial preparation. "I spent days reading about council politics, about trade deals and business holdings. The Kresh station isn't connected to human corporations. It's connected to your holdings, Thrax." The chamber went dead silent. "You supplied the weapons," Elena said. "You set up this whole attack. And now you're trying to pin it on me before anyone figures it out." Thrax's face twisted with rage. "You have no proof." "Then let me broadcast these documents to the entire Dominion," Elena said. "Let every citizen see the evidence and decide for themselves." "That would be," Varkesh started. "It would be very human," Elena interrupted. "We don't settle accusations with violence. We use information. We use truth. So here's my challenge, Thrax. If you're innocent, you'll have no problem with 3 months past since Elena took her throne." She thought life would get easier, but she was wrong. Every day brought new challenges, new problems that needed solving. The council respected her now, but respect didn't mean they always agreed with her ideas. She was in her quarters, reviewing reports late at night, when Varkesh knocked on her door. That alone told her something was wrong. Varkesh never came to her quarters unless it was serious. "We have a problem," he said without greeting. "Intelligence has confirmed that the Pure Galaxy movement is planning another attack. A major one." Elena's blood went cold. The Pure Galaxy movement was the extremist group behind the Kashara bombing. They believed predator species like Vraxians and prey species like humans should never mix. They wanted to destroy any cooperation between species. "How major?" Elena asked. "They have acquired singularity weapons," Varkesh said quietly. "Planet killers. And their target is the Vraxian homeworld." Elena sat down hard. Singularity weapons were illegal everywhere in the galaxy. They could destroy an entire planet, killing billions. "How did they get those?" "That's what we're trying to find out," Varkesh said. "But the council meets in 1 hour. We need to decide how to respond." The council chamber was tense when Elena arrived. The remaining 6 council members were already arguing. Without Thrax, there was no clear leader, which meant decisions took longer. "We must strike immediately," Shakara was saying. "Send our full fleet to their base. Destroy them before they can launch." "We don't know exactly where their base is," Gorvash countered. "We have a region, but not coordinates. If we search with our whole fleet, they'll see us coming. Then we search faster," another council member growled. "Use overwhelming force," Elena listened to them argue. They were all thinking the same way. Use strength, use violence, crush the enemy. It was the Vraxian way. But Elena had learned that sometimes the Vraxian way wasn't the only way. "What if we're asking the wrong question?" Elena said. The council turned to look at her. "We're asking, how do we find them and destroy them?" Elena continued. "But maybe we should ask, how did they get singularity weapons in the first place?" "Those weapons are controlled. Only a few corporations in the galaxy can make them. If we find the seller, we find the buyers." "That could take weeks," Shakara objected. "We don't have weeks. I can do it in 3 days," Elena said. "Let me investigate. If I'm wrong, you can still send the fleet. But if I'm right, we can stop this without losing thousands of warriors in a prolonged search." The council argued, but finally agreed to give Elena her 3 days. She immediately went to work. Elena used every resource she had. She contacted human intelligence agencies, called in favors from traders she had treated at her old clinic, and spent hours going through financial records. She barely slept. On the 2nd day, she found something. A corporation called Nexum Industries had reported a theft of singularity weapon components 6 months ago. But when Elena dug deeper, she found the theft was fake. The components had been deliberately sold off the books. She traced the money. It led to a shell company. Then another. Then another. It was a maze designed to hide the trail. But Elena was stubborn, and she had help from human analysts who were good at following money. On the evening of the 2nd day, she found where the trail ended. And her heart sank. The money had moved through accounts connected to Vraxian council member holdings. Not just any member. Multiple members. Someone was selling weapons to terrorists. Someone in the Dominion government itself. Elena sat in her quarters, staring at the evidence. She had to tell the council, but this would cause chaos. It would look like another Thrax situation. The council would tear itself apart trying to figure out who was guilty, unless she could prove it conclusively. Elena worked through the night. She cross-referenced trade routes, communication logs, and business transactions. By morning, she had her answer. There was only one council member whose business interests touched all the right accounts at the right times. Gorvash, the old warrior who had been kind to her, who had supported her on the council, who she had started to think of as an ally. Her heart ached, but the evidence was clear. Elena called for an emergency council session. When everyone was assembled, she presented her findings. The Pure Galaxy movement got their weapons from someone in this chamber, she said. The evidence is here. Transaction records, shipping manifests, everything. The council erupted. Everyone denied involvement. Everyone accused everyone else. Show us who it is, Varkesh demanded. Elena looked at Gorvash. The old Vraxian met her eyes, and in that moment she saw he knew she had figured it out. Why? Elena asked him directly. Why would you arm terrorists? The council went silent. All eyes turned to Gorvash. For a long moment he said nothing. Then his shoulders sagged. Because I'm old, he said quietly. And I'm tired. Tired of change. Tired of the galaxy mixing together like it has no consequences. When I was young, Vraxians were proud. We were pure. Now we make alliances with prey species. Now we have humans on our council. He looked at Elena. No offense. Plenty taken, Elena said coldly. I thought if there was a crisis, if the homeworld was threatened, the council would see that the old ways were better, Gorvash continued. We would abandon our alliances. We would become strong again through isolation. You were willing to kill billions of your own people for that? Varkesh asked, his voice shaking with rage. The extremists weren't supposed to succeed, Gorvash said. I sold them faulty weapon components. They would try to attack, fail, and we would rally against them. I controlled everything. Or so I thought. He looked at Elena with something like respect. I didn't account for human cleverness. You found the trail I thought was impossible to follow. Elena felt sick. Where is their base? Gorvash gave them the coordinates. He had known all along. Take him to containment, Varkesh ordered. Guards led Gorvash away. The old warrior went quietly, looking suddenly small and fragile. We need to strike now, Shakara said. Before they realize we're coming. Wait, Elena said. Gorvash said he sold them faulty components. What if he's telling the truth? What if their weapons won't work? We can't take that chance, Varkesh said. No, but we can be smart about how we attack, Elena said. She pulled up a tactical display. Look at their base location. It's in an asteroid field. If we come in with our whole fleet, they'll see us and try to launch whatever weapons they have, faulty or not. Even a partial detonation of a singularity weapon could destroy nearby systems. Then what do you suggest? Shakara asked. We do what humans do best, Elena said. We send in a small team. Infiltrate the base. Disable the weapons before they can be launched. Then when it's safe, the fleet moves in to capture or destroy the extremists. That's a suicide mission, one council member said. Who would volunteer for that? I would, Elena said. It's my plan. I should be the one to risk it. Absolutely not, Varkesh said immediately. You're a council member. You're too valuable. I'm also a doctor who spent 3 years on a frontier world treating dangerous patients, Elena countered. I know how to handle risky situations. And I'm small. I can fit through spaces your warriors can't. The argument went on for an hour, but Elena wouldn't back down. Finally, they compromised. Elena would go, but she would take a team of Vraxian special forces with her. 2 days later, Elena found herself in a stealth ship approaching the asteroid field. She wore advanced combat armor, modified for human size. 5 Vraxian warriors were with her, the best special forces soldiers in the Dominion. I still think this is crazy, the team leader, a warrior named Jex, muttered. A council member on a combat mission. I'm not just a council member, Elena said. I'm a survivor. I survived that bomb on Kashara. I'll survive this. They infiltrated the base through a mining tunnel. Elena's smaller size meant she could scout ahead through the narrow passages. She found the weapons storage facility and was relieved to see Gorvash had been telling the truth. The components were flawed. The weapons wouldn't detonate properly, but they could still cause massive damage if the extremists tried to use them. Elena and her team worked quickly. They disabled the weapons one by one, carefully removing key components. It took 3 hours. 3 hours where any mistake could kill them all. But finally it was done. Weapons disabled, Elena reported over the comm. Send in the fleet, the battle was short. Without their ultimate weapons, the extremists surrendered quickly when faced with Vraxian military power. The base was captured. The extremist leaders were arrested. Elena stood in the weapons facility looking at the disabled singularity devices. She had stopped a catastrophe. She had saved billions of lives. But she felt no pride, only exhaustion. Varkesh found her there. You did well, he said. The homeworld is safe because of you. 2 council members were traitors, Elena said quietly. First Thrax, now Gorvash. How many others might be working against us? I don't know, Varkesh admitted. But I know one thing. The council needs you. The Dominion needs you. You see things we miss. You think in ways we cannot. Elena looked at her throne in her mind. She had never wanted it. She had spent months looking for ways to escape. 6 months after the attack was stopped, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Dominion flagship, looking down at the Vraxian homeworld. The planet was beautiful with purple oceans and red forests. Billions of people lived down there and they had no idea how close they had come to dying. She came to this spot when she needed to think. Lately, that was often. Mother Elena, a voice said behind her. Elena turned to see Kale. He was growing fast, already 6 feet tall now. His amber eyes were clearer than they had been months ago. The nightmares had stopped. He smiled more. He was healing. You can just call me Elena, she said with a smile. The mother title still feels strange. But you are my battle mother, Kale said. You gave your life for me. That makes you family. Family. Elena had lost her family years ago on Earth. She never thought she would have another. But somehow on a flagship full of alien predators she had found one. What do you need? Elena asked. Father sent me to find you, Kale said. There's a transmission from Earth. They say it's important. Elena's heart jumped. She hadn't spoken to anyone from Earth in months. She had been too busy with council duties. The communication room was set up for the long-distance call. On the screen appeared Admiral Chen, the head of Earth's colonial administration. Elena had met her once years ago. Dr. Cross, Admiral Chen said, or should I say Counselor Cross, your reputation has reached us. Just Elena is fine, Elena said. What can I do for Earth? It's more about what we can do for each other, Admiral Chen said. The Vraxian Dominion and humanity have been at peace for 20 years, but we've never been true allies. We trade, we talk, but there's always distance. After what you've done, we think it's time to change that. What do you mean? Elena asked. We want to propose a formal alliance, Admiral Chen explained. Cultural exchanges, joint scientific projects, shared defense agreements, and we want you to be humanity's official ambassador to the Dominion. Elena felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Ambassador? But I'm already on the Vraxian Council. Exactly, Admiral Chen said. You're the perfect bridge between our species. You understand both sides. You've earned respect from the Vraxians, something no other human has managed. You could change the future of both our peoples. Let me think about it, Elena said. I need time. After the call ended, Elena sat alone in the communication room. This was it. This was her chance to go home, or at least to reconnect with humanity. But it also meant taking on even more responsibility. She found Varkesh in the training halls, supervising combat practice. He saw her expression and dismissed his students. Earth wants me to be their ambassador, Elena told him. They want me to represent humanity to the Dominion. What did you tell them? Varkesh asked. That I needed to think, Elena said. I don't know if I can do both jobs. Council member and ambassador. It might be too much. Or it might be exactly what both our peoples need, Varkesh said. Elena, do you know what you've accomplished in 6 months? You've exposed 2 traitors on the council. You've stopped a terrorist attack. You've introduced mental health care to our warriors, and dozens of them are healthier because of it. You've shown us that prey thinking isn't weakness, it's just a different kind of strength. I've just been trying to survive, Elena said quietly. No, Varkesh said firmly. You've been leading. Whether you wanted to or not. And you're good at it. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about choices. About the moment she ran toward that bomb instead of away. That choice had changed everything. She got up and walked through the quiet hallways of the flagship. Without meaning to, she found herself in the council chamber. The 7 thrones sat in their circle. 6 were occupied by cushions bearing the symbols of their bloodlines. The 7th, hers, had a cushion she had designed herself. It showed both Earth and the Vraxian homeworld. She sat on her throne for the first time when no one was watching. It didn't feel wrong anymore. It felt like it fit. "I thought I might find you here," a voice said. Shakara entered the chamber. The fierce female warrior who had once called Elena weak now treated her with respect. "Couldn't sleep," Elena admitted. "Neither could I," Shakara said. She sat on her own throne. "I've been thinking about change, about how much has changed since you joined us. I fought against you at first. I thought you would make us weak." "I remember," Elena said. "I was wrong," Shakara said simply. "You've made us stronger, not in the way I expected, but stronger nonetheless. You've shown us blind spots we didn't know we had. You've solved problems we couldn't solve, and you did it by being human, not by trying to be Vraxian." "Why are you telling me this?" Elena asked. "Because I heard about Earth's offer," Shakara said, "and I want you to know that if you take it, if you try to serve both peoples, you'll have my support. I think you can do it. I think you're strong enough." Coming from Shakara, that meant everything. The next morning, Elena called Admiral Chen back. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll be your ambassador. But I won't give up my council seat. I'll hold both positions. I'll be the bridge between our peoples." "That won't be easy," Admiral Chen warned. "Nothing worth doing is easy," Elena said. "I learned that when I ran toward a bomb instead of away from it." The formal ceremony happened 2 weeks later. Representatives from Earth came to the Vraxian homeworld for the first time in 20 years. The Dominion held a celebration that lasted 3 days. Elena stood before both groups wearing clothes that combined human and Vraxian styles. She was officially recognized as both a Vraxian council member and Earth's ambassador to the Dominion. Kyle stood beside her during the ceremony. He had insisted on being there. When it was over and they had a quiet moment, he looked up at her. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Saving me? Taking on all this responsibility?" Elena thought about it. She thought about her quiet life on Kashara, treating patients and trying to hide from her grief. She thought about the moment of decision, those 2 seconds before the bomb exploded. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it. That moment changed everything. But maybe I needed everything to change. Maybe we both did." 5 years passed. Elena divided her time between the Dominion flagship, Earth's diplomatic stations, and various worlds where humans and Vraxians were learning to work together. She was constantly traveling, constantly negotiating, constantly building bridges. It was exhausting. It was frustrating. It was lonely sometimes being the only human among Vraxians or the only Vraxian-aligned diplomat among humans. But it was also meaningful. She brokered 3 major peace treaties between species who had been enemies for centuries. She established cultural exchange programs on 12 worlds. She trained a new generation of diplomats, both human and Vraxian, teaching them that understanding didn't mean agreement, but it did mean respect. Kale grew into a young adult, preparing to take his place as a full council member when he came of age. He learned from Elena, watching how she handled conflicts with words instead of weapons. He became known as the most progressive voice in the younger generation of Vraxians. The galaxy didn't transform overnight. There were still conflicts, still prejudices, still fear between species. But slowly things were changing. Humans and Vraxians who had once seen each other as enemies started to see possibilities for cooperation. Elena's medical background meant she also worked on joint human-Vraxian medical projects. The same biotech that had saved her life was now being adapted to help injured humans across the galaxy. Vraxian warriors were learning human psychology techniques to deal with trauma. On the 5th anniversary of the Kashara bombing, Elena sat in the council chamber during a session. A dispute had come before them, a human colony and a Vraxian mining operation having a conflict over resources. Both sides had sent representatives. They were angry, shouting, accusing each other of crimes. It was the kind of situation that could escalate into violence. Elena listened patiently. Then she spoke. "I understand you're both angry," she said. "You both feel wronged. You both see the other side as the problem. But here's what I know, you're neighbors now. You share this space. You can spend the next 10 years fighting, wasting resources and lives, or you can spend 1 year negotiating a solution that works for both of you." "Easy for you to say," the human representative said. "You don't have to deal with aggressive Vraxian miners. And you don't have to deal with humans who break agreements, the Vraxian countered. You're both right, Elena said. But you're both wrong too. I was a human who lived on a frontier world. I treated Vraxians who were injured and scared. I learned that we're not as different as we think. We all want safety. We all want security. We all want our children to have a better future than we did. She spent 3 hours mediating. She listened to both sides. She found compromises. By the end, both representatives agreed to a trial partnership with clear rules and oversight. After they left, Varkesh approached Elena. That was well done, he said. 5 years ago, that dispute would have become a battle. Today, it became a negotiation. Because of you. Not just me, Elena said. Because of all of us. The whole council has changed. True, Varkesh said. But you started the change. That day on Kishara, when you ran toward danger instead of away, when you chose to save a predator's cub even though it went against all logic, you set something in motion. You showed us a different